Hello! This video is very important for Excel beginner users and also important for intermediate users. But wait, if you are new to my channel, please give me a like, subscribe and leave a comment. Are you ready? Let's begin. What does Excel interface consist of? Title bar. This item is available in all Windows applications. It displays the name of the program and the name of the current file. We can see the quick access toolbar on the left, the search box, and some control buttons that can use to modify the window on the right. Quick access toolbar. It's a customizable toolbar that includes commonly used commands. Search box. Use this control to find commands. We can press Alt and Q to access the search box. Window controls. In all Windows applications, there are three controls for minimizing the window, maximizing, and closing the window. File button contains many options for working with your document, like save, save as, print, and setting Excel options. Tab list. It's some commands to display a different ribbon. Ribbon. It's the location for Excel commands. The commands will change if I change the tab. Collapse the ribbon button. We can click this button to hide the ribbon, while double-click any ribbon tab to make the ribbon visible. We can press Ctrl and F1 to do the same task. Name box. The box that displays the active cell address or the name of the selected cell, range, or object. Formula bar. When you enter data or formulas into a cell, it appears in it. Worksheet, which contains columns and rows. Columns and rows make up what are known as cells. Each column has a title, which is a letter, as well as each row has a title, which is a number, and each cell is named according to its column and row. Here we can input data. Selected cell indicator. The dark outline that indicates the currently selected cell or range of cells. Sheet tabs. Each of these tabs represents a different sheet in the workbook. A workbook can have a number of sheets, and each sheet has its name displayed in a sheet tab. Sheet tab controls. Use these buttons to scroll the sheet tabs to display tabs that aren't visible. You can also right-click to get a list of sheets. New Sheet button. Add a new worksheet by clicking the New Sheet button, which is displayed after the last sheet tab. Vertical and horizontal scroll bar. Use these tools to scroll the sheet vertically and horizontally. Status bar displays various messages as well as summary information about the range of cells selected. Right-click the status bar to change which messages are displayed. Macro Recorder Indicator. Click to start recording a Visual Basic for Applications, VBA, macro. The icon changes while your actions are being recorded. Click again to stop recording. Page View buttons. Click these buttons to change the way the worksheet is displayed. Zoom control. Use this to zoom your worksheet in and out. The active cell is the one with dark border. In this case, cell C11. The row and columns headings of the active cell appear in a different color to make it easier to identify the row and columns of the active cell. Navigating with your keyboard. We can use the standard navigational keys on your keyboard to move around the worksheet. We can summarize the movement keys as the following. Up a row or Shift and Enter moves the active cell up one row. Down a row or Enter moves the active cell down one row. Left a row or Shift and Tab moves the active cell one column to the left. Right arrow or tab moves the active cell one column to the right. Page up moves the active cell up one screen. Page down moves the active cell down one screen. Alt and page down moves the active cell right one screen. Alt and page up moves the active cell left one screen. Control and backspace scroll the screen so that the active cell is visible. Control and home moves the active cell to A1. Control and end moves the active cell to the bottom rightmost cell on the worksheet's used range. Ribbon tabs. There are various groups of commands in the ribbon, depending upon which tab is selected. Here's a quick overview of Excel's tabs. Home. This tab contains the basic keyboard commands, formatting commands, style commands, commands to insert and delete rows or columns, and much more. Insert. Select this tab when you need to insert something into the worksheet as a table, a diagram, a chart, a symbol, and so on. Page layout. This tab contains commands that affect the overall appearance of the worksheet, with some settings that deal with printing. Formulas. Use this tab to insert a formula, name a cell, or a range. Data. We can use this tab data-related commands like data validation and sorting commands. Review. If you want to check spelling, translate words, add comments, or protect sheets, you can use this tab. View. The View tab contains commands that control various aspects of how a sheet is viewed. Some commands on this tab are also available in the status bar. Developer. This tab isn't visible by default. It contains commands that are useful for programmers. To display the Developer tab, choose File, Options, and then select Customize Ribbon. In the Customize the Ribbon section on the right, make sure that Main Tabs is selected in the drop-down control and place a check mark next to Developer. Help. This tab provides ways to get help, making suggestions, and access other aspects of Microsoft's community. In addition to the standard tabs, Excel includes contextual tabs. Whenever an object is selected, such as a chart, a table, or an illustration, specific tools for working with that object are made available on the ribbon. Excel data types. An Excel workbook contains worksheets. Each worksheet includes a set of cells, while the worksheet is covered by an invisible layer called drawing layer. In the drawing layer, we can input charts, diagrams, pictures, buttons, and other objects. We can input in cells one of these basic types of data: numbers, text, and formulas. To enter data in the cell, select wanted cell and write a number or a text. Then press Enter, Tab, or navigation keys. If you want to enter numbers, you can put plus signs, minus signs, percent signs, and commas to separate thousands. If you precede a value with a minus sign or enclose it in parentheses, it will be a negative number. Don't use text with numbers if you want to make numeric calculation on them. For example, if you write 100 students, Excel considers that as a text. Excel can display numbers in many different formats. We will see them later. On the other hand, Excel considers date and time as numbers also. The earliest date that Excel understands is January 1, 1900. This date has a serial number of 1. The next date is 2, and so on. For example, you can enter date by typing 1-2-22. Excel will read it according to your region. For English United States, it's January 2, 2022. For Arabic, for example, it's February 1, 2022. If you input 1-Jan, Excel considers the year is the current year. For the time, Excel uses decimal numbers to store time. So each hour value is 124. Sometimes you see a string of hash characters displayed in a cell containing a number. It indicates the column width is too narrow to display the value as formatted. To solve that, increase the width of the column. Just drag the border in the column letter display. If the hash characters persist, even if you make the column much wider, check to see if you have a negative value in the cell, formatted as a date or time. Dates and times must be positive values. When you enter the text, you may face this problem. If you enter text that is longer than the current width of the column, and if the cells to the immediate right are blank, Excel will display all of the text. But if it is not empty, Excel displays as much of the text as possible. To solve this problem, you have many choices. Increase the width of the column. Use a smaller font. Shrink to fit. Choose Home, Alignment, Shrink to fit. Wrap the text within the cell so that it occupies more than one line. Choose Home, Alignment, Wrap Text. Let's highlight the input modes in Excel. In the left side of Excel's status bar, we can see Ready, which means that Excel is ready for you to enter or edit data in the worksheet. If you type data in a cell, the status bar changes to display Enter to indicate that you are in Enter mode. The most common modes for Excel to be in are Ready, Enter, and Edit. In Enter mode, you are actively entering something into a cell. Note that you haven't changed the contents of the cell until you leave Enter mode. To leave Enter mode, you can press Enter, Tab, or navigation keys. The value you typed is displayed in the cell, and the status bar changes to Ready. You can also leave Enter mode by pressing the ESC key. Pressing ESC ignores your changes. Edit mode. In this mode, the word Edit appears at the left side of the status bar. This mode allows you to edit the contents of a cell. You can use one of the following ways to enter Edit mode. Double-click the cell to edit the cell contents directly in the cell. Select the cell and press F2 to edit the cell contents directly in the cell. Select the cell that you want to edit and then click inside the formula bar to edit the cell contents in the formula bar. When you begin editing a cell, the insertion point appears as a vertical bar and you can perform the following, using the navigation keys to move within the cell. Pressing Home to move the insertion point to the beginning of the cell. Pressing In to move the insertion point to the end of the cell. Now you can add new characters or select multiple characters by pressing Shift while you use navigation keys. You can also select characters while you are editing a cell by using the mouse. Just click and drag the mouse pointer over the characters that you want to select. We can delete a character to the left of the insertion point by backspace or to the right of the insertion point by delete key. Now let's talk about deleting the contents of a cell. To delete the contents of a cell, just click the cell and press the delete key. To delete the contents of more than one cell, select all the cells that you want to delete and then press delete. Replacing the contents of a cell. To replace the contents of a cell, just activate the cell, type your new entry and press enter. You can also replace cell contents by dragging and dropping or by copying and pasting data from another cell. Let's create our first workbook. Suppose that we have a fund for the company and we want to report the daily receipts and payments. In this example, we'll use some Excel's input tricks, selecting a range of input cells before entering data. Here we want 5 titles, which are serial numbers, date, item, receipts, and payments. These titles will be contained in 5 cells that make up a range. We can call it A1, E1 range, while Excel understands it as A1, E1. We can input data in this range as we said before, but here I'll use a little trick. If I select this range before typing, I can use Enter key to go to the next cell. In A1, let's write serial numbers. Enter. Now we can write in B1 and so on. To go outside the range, I can use navigation keys, forcing text to appear on a new line within a cell. Here we have serial numbers. I want each word to be in a line. Double-click the cell to edit the cell contents directly in the cell. Go to the end of serial word. Press Alt and Enter. Enter. You can do that for any sentence in any cell and you can get more than 2 lines. Using autofill to enter a series of values. In A2, we want to input 1, then in A3 input 2, and so on. We can use autofill feature by clicking on the fill handle, that small box at the lower right of the active cell, and drag down to copy the cell or automatically complete a series. In this case, Excel by default here copies cells. Here we'll see an icon that when clicked displays some additional autofill options. I will explain it later, but here we have to choose fill series. In some cases like days names, Excel by default fill series. We can change the default option if we press Ctrl key. Look here, I use Ctrl, and here I don't. Using Ctrl and Enter to place information into multiple cells. Suppose that we have 5 entries on January 1, 2022. Select B2, B6, the range that will contain this date, and write 1-1-2022. Then press Ctrl and Enter. The date is repeated 5 times. Using autocomplete to automate data entry. Before we talk about this feature, let's enter some data. If we received $5,000 cash from Ahmad Nasser, we would input these data. Ahmad Nasser, tab, 5,000. Then we paid $500 for office rent. Input office rent, tab, $500. Now if Ahmad Nasser withdraws $1,000 in cash, if I write A, Excel will complete it to Ahmad Nasser. If I want to write just Ahmad, I can press delete after finishing Ahmad word and press enter. Repeating the upper cell contents. If I pay $1,000 for office supplies, write supplies, tab, tab, press Ctrl and apostrophe to repeat the 1,000. Note here I don't use a typical accounting, I just try to explain some data entry tricks. Using AutoCorrect for shorthand data entry. You can use AutoCorrect feature to create shortcuts for commonly used words. I explained that before, you can see the video in the description. Using a form for data entry. Excel offers a simple way to enter data. It's data entry form that Excel can create automatically. We add it to Quick Access toolbar. Right-click the Quick Access toolbar. In the Choose Commands from drop-down list, choose Commands not in the ribbon. In the list box on the left, select Form. You can press F to find form faster. Click Add button to add the selected command to your Quick Access toolbar. Click OK. Now we can input new entry, delete entries, or find them. Entering the current date or time into a cell. To enter the current date, press Ctrl and semicolon. To enter the current time, press Ctrl and Shift and semicolon. Now we want to save our workbook. Go to File tab, choose Save or Save As. Excel will give you recent places you saved your file in them. You can choose Browse and save your file wherever you want. Let's choose Desktop and rename the file Cache. You can save your job after editing it by clicking on Save button in the Quick Access toolbar, or press Ctrl and S, and the file will be updated. Formatting numbers. In the Home tab, the Number Format drop-down list contains 11 common number formats. Let's review them. General. It's the default format. It shows you a number without any formatting. Number. Enables you to specify the number of decimal places, whether to use a comma to separate thousands, and how to display negative numbers with a minus sign, in red, in parentheses, or in red and in parentheses. Currency. Like number format, but here you can add a currency symbol. Accounting. Differs from currency format in that currency symbols always align vertically at the left edge of the cell. Date. Enables you to choose from several different dates formats. Time. Enables you to choose from several different time formats. Percentage. Enables you to choose the number of decimal places and always displays a percent sign. Fraction. Enables you to choose fraction formats. Scientific. Displays numbers with an E. Text. When applied to a value, causes Excel to treat the value as text. This format is useful for such phone numbers and credit card numbers. Special. Contains additional number formats like zip code, phone number, and social security number. Custom. Enables you to define custom number formats that aren't included in any other category. Number group includes controls that let you quickly apply common number formats. Here we can see additional options include an accounting number format drop-down list to select a currency format, a percent style button, and a comma style button. The group also contains a button to increase the number of decimal places and another to decrease them. Let's try to change number formatting for our worksheet. Building and editing formulas. To build a formula, we must start with equal sign. Formulas may include cell references, operators, numbers, text, Excel functions, and parentheses. We can enter Excel formulas in one of three ways. 1. Type or enter a formula directly in a cell. For example, if we have two values in B2 and C2 and we want to sum them in D2, go to D2, begin the formula with an equal sign, and then type B2 plus C2. Then press enter to end the process and to enter the formula. 2. Create a formula by pointing to the cell references. The same example. Again, begin the formula with an equal sign. But instead of typing cell references, point to B2 using navigation keys or mouse. Type plus, point to C2 using navigation keys or mouse. Then press enter. This way reduces the potential errors. 3. Use an automated Excel process to build all or part of formulas. For example, to sum these cells, we can click the AutoSum command on the Home tab of the ribbon or press Alt and equals from the keyboard to build a formula to sum highlighted cells. To understand fully how Excel calculates a formula, we must understand Excel's order for operator precedence. Operator precedence refers to the order in which Excel performs calculation within formulas. In Excel, exponentation is calculated before multiplication or division, which is calculated before addition or subtraction, which is calculated before text concatenation, which is calculated before compressions. This symbol is AND symbol to join text. These symbols are equals, greater than, less than or equals, greater than or equals, isn't equal. Parentheses may be used to alter Excel's order of operator precedence. Calculations within parentheses take place before those outside of parentheses. If parentheses are nested, the calculations are made from the innermost set of parentheses to the outmost set. Parentheses clarify the order of calculation and makes formulas easier to read and understand, even if they are not required. Let's see some formulas examples and see how Excel calculates them. absolute, relative, and mixed cell references in Excel. As we said before, each cell can be referenced by its column and row. For example, A1 refers to the first column, which is column A, and the first row, which is row 1. As we see in Formulas chapter, we can use cell references when creating formulas. We have 3 types of cell references that we can use in Excel: relative cell references, absolute cell references, and mixed cell references. These 3 types will help you to work with formulas and save time. Relative cell references. If we turn back to the last worksheet, we'll see quantity and price for each item. To calculate the total for each item, we need to multiply the price with the quantity. For the first item, the formula in cell D2 would be B2 asterisk C2. We don't have to enter the formula for all items. We can simply fill series like we did before. We know that the formula in cell D3 becomes B3 asterisk C3, and the formula in D4 becomes B4 asterisk C4, and so on. Relative cell references changes when formulas are copied or use fill handle. Absolute cell references. Unlike relative cell references, absolute cell references don't change when you copy the formula to other cells. Suppose that we have discount for each item and the discount rate is 5% and is listed in cell G1. To get the discount amount for each item, use the following formula in cell E2 equals D2 asterisk $G $1. A $, when added in front of the row or column, makes it absolute, so it won't change when copied to other cells. In this case, when I copy the formula from cell E2 to E3, it changes from equals D2 asterisk $G $1 to equals D3 asterisk $G $1. Note that D2 changes to D3, but G1 doesn't. Mixed cell references. We have 2 types of mixed cell references. The row is locked while the column changes when the formula is copied, and the column is locked while the row changes when the formula is copied. The best example for this type is multiplying table. We want to multiply each number in the row with each number in the column. In B2, type equals B $1 asterisk $A2. The above formula uses both kinds of mixed cell references, one where the row is locked and one where the column is locked. Let's analyze each cell reference and understand how it works. $A2. In this reference, the $sign is before the column, but not before the row. This means that when you copy the formula to the cells on the right, the reference will remain the same as the column is fixed. But when you copy it down, the row number would change as it's not locked. B$1. In this reference, the $sign is before the row, but not before the column. This means that when you copy the formula down the cells, the reference will not change as the row number is locked. But if you copy the formula to the right, the column alphabet would change as it's not locked. Now, fill series to the right, then fill series down. The multiplying table is ready now. The files in this video are available to download in the description. You can change the reference from relative to absolute by pressing F4 key. When you select a cell reference in the formula bar or in the cell in edit mode and press F4, it changes the reference. Suppose that you have reference equals A1 in a cell. Press F4 once. The cell reference changes from A1 to $A$1. Press F4 two times. The cell reference changes from A1 to A$1. Press F4 three times. The cell reference changes from A1 to $A1. Press F4 four times. The cell reference becomes A1 again. Insert function. Every function has the same structure. For example, sum, A1, A4. The part between parentheses means that we give Excel the range A1, A4 as input. To insert a function, execute the following steps. Select a cell. Click the Insert Function button. The Insert Function dialog box appears. Search for a function or select a function from a category. For example, choose sum. Click OK. The function arguments dialog box appears. Click in the range box and select the range A1, A4. Click OK. Note, instead of using the insert function feature, simply type equals sum, open parentheses, A1, colon, A4. Close parentheses. You can use tab to autocomplete the function. Instead of typing A1, colon, A4, simply select the range A1, A4. Function arguments. There are various types of arguments depending on the function. A function may use one of the following: no arguments, one argument, a fixed number of arguments, an indeterminate number of arguments, optional arguments. If a function uses more than one argument, separate each argument with a comma. In some regions like Arabic, we use semicolon instead of comma. An argument can be a cell reference, numbers, text, expressions, and other functions. Now, let's take a look at the top most used formulas in Excel. In this section, I'll type functions and highlight cell references. You can use Insert Function button instead. Let's begin. The first function is sum. It's the most commonly used formula. It simply adds up the numbers within a range of cells. I talked about it before. Average. This formula returns the average of a range of cells. You could find the average for the student's degrees with the formula equals average B2 D2. Count. This formula counts the number of the cells in a range that contains numbers. So if you wanted to count how many cells in a range contain numbers, you could use formula equals count A1 D3. The result will be 6. This function is different from count A function, which counts number of cells in a range that's not empty. If I type equals count A, A1 D3, the result will be 12. Max. This formula returns the largest value in a range of cells. For example, equals max B2 D2 will give me the highest degree for a student. Min. This formula returns the smallest value in a range of cells. If. This is a very powerful and commonly used formula. It allows you to test a condition and then return one value if the condition is met and another value if it is not. For example, you could use formula equals if, open parentheses, E2 greater than or equals to 50, comma, pass between two quotation marks. Always text in formulas, we must enclose them with quotations, comma, fail between two quotation marks. To test if the student decrease average is greater than or equals to 50, if it is, the formula will return the word pass. If not, it will return the word fail. VLOOKUP. Even though there is an improved version of this function, which is XLOOKUP, it's still one of the most used functions in Excel. It allows you to look up a value in one table and then return a corresponding value from another table. Equals VLOOKUP F5, A1, B5, 2, false. In F5 we have a student name. In A1, B5 we have students' names and students' physics degrees. 2 indicates the column number in the range A1, B5. False makes the function return exact match. IFERROR. This function used to avoid any error in a formula. For example, if I put name of student that is not included in the students table, the lookup function will give me an error. We can precede it with IFERROR like this. Cut the formula without equal sign. Type IFERROR. After left parentheses, paste a formula. Type comma to go to the second argument. Type double quotation mark to make the cell looks empty if there's an error. Note here that we can put any text like not available between two quotation marks. Trim. This formula removes any leading or trailing spaces from text. For example, if I put double spaces between Ahmad and Nasser and have space before or after any sentence by mistake, you could use the formula equals trim A2 to remove the spaces. Proper. This formula capitalizes the first letters of each word in a piece of text. For example, if I typed a name for one student in lowercase, I could use the formula equals proper A2. That's all for today. See you soon.